and Business Committee. It is Wednesday, October 12, 2011, and we're here in John Farrow Council Chambers, room 340 of City Hall. We have a quorum with myself, Councilmember Eric Garcetti, and Councilmember Bernard Parks. We have an agenda of 2 items, so if we can take up the first item.
Item number 1 is a CAO report pursuant to motion Garcetti-Reyes relative to the acceptance and implementation of $3.4 million in Workforce Investment Act National Emergency Grant Funding through the California Multi-Sector Workforce Partnership for Reemployment Services and related matters.
All right. So far, so good. Let's hear some more detail.
Good morning, Councilmember.
Good morning.
This is Tyler Munhall with the CAO. You have before you a CAO report in response to your motion, which recommends granting CDD authority to accept about $3.4 million in Workforce Investment Act National Emergency Grant Funds. This amount is the city's portion of a $45 million grant awarded to the California Multi-Sector Workforce Partnership from the Department of Labor. CDD also requests authority to negotiate and execute contracts with 5 work source centers to deliver services to 200 laid off workers. The CAO recommends approval of this action, and the WIB approved these actions in July.
Okay. CDD, you want to chime in at all?
No, we agree with Tyler's report, and it sounds great to us.
It's nice to be back chairing committee that has the Workforce Investment Act dollars. It's something that certainly was, when I first came into office, an area that I focused on, and to see really the blossoming of a strategy that we pursued to look at sectors is great to see. Walk me through a little bit what we can expect if somebody goes into the Canoga Park, West Hills, Hollywood, Marina Del Rey, Mar Vista, Metro North Los Angeles, and Southeast Los Angeles work source centers in terms of who this would be focused on and what sort of jobs we're focusing on getting them in.
Councilmember Jaime Pacheco Orozco with the Community Development Department. This grant was awarded to 21 different local workforce investment areas, and we specifically identified particular sectors that were impacted by layoffs recently. In the case of the City of Los Angeles, we focused on public sector employees, given the layoffs that were occurring in the area, both with the state, the county, and the city, and with the community college, with the school district. So we focused on public sector employees who had been laid off in our application. Subsequent to the award, we asked the Department of Labor to expand that to include private sector employers. We're currently waiting for those for that approval from the Department of Labor to expand the pool of employees. But essentially, we're targeting folks who have already been identified as having been laid off through public sector entities, and we'll work with our workforce centers to enroll those individuals, to train those individuals, and to provide reemployment services to them. So it's not as if someone's going to walk into the workforce center.
It'll be targeted from those lists.
They've been targeted. We've got a list of employees. There are over 2,000 employees in the area who were submitted as part of our solicitation. So this represents about a tenth of those 2,000.
And in a very parochial or selfish manner, I assume you have the City of LA. We didn't have a lot of layoffs, but we did have layoffs in the hundreds.
Yes, absolutely.
We have that list, and we're focusing
Absolutely.
on those individuals as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. Was this the largest grant awarded in the country, or do we have any idea of the other 20 localities? It was $45 million, and we got about 3.5 or 3.45 million.
So this was excuse me, Councilmember. This was a partnership application. There were 21 different local workforce investment areas that submitted the application with South Bay WIB as the lead agency.
Oh, so sorry. So it's 21 local?
Local workforce investment areas.
California.
In California.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's a partnership application. These are contiguous local workforce investment areas.
Oh, I see. So $45 million was awarded to the California Multi-Sector Partnership.
And there was the lead fiscal and administrative entity is the South Bay Workforce Investment Board, and we're a subrecipient of their of the grant itself.
So what kind of pool is this from nationally? I mean, was this a separate than normal WIA funds? This was-
Yes, Robert Stein, Assistant General Manager. So, and welcome back.
Thank you.
Glad to,
Yeah.
glad to
What
have
goes
you back
around
on
comes
this-
around, right?
Yeah. The unfortunate part, to put it into a larger context, is that our unemployment rate has gone almost doubled since the last 5 years, as you know. So we're close to 13%, 12.9 at the last reading within the city of Los Angeles unemployment. So it is one of the major issues, not just on a national basis, which is about 9%, but on a local basis, this is really an economic tragedy that we have currently. So this only represents a very, very small fraction of the folks that are dislocated within the city and within the region. These particular monies came from the National Emergency Grant dollars that Secretary Solis has put out. I believe there was about 8 to 10, I don't have the exact number, states that actually received National Emergency Grant dollars, Nevada, Indiana, Michigan, and a few of the other large hit unemployment areas. But in the state, and in particular in the city, we are suffering a untold number of just long-term unemployed individuals.
So I went from being really excited that we got 3.45 of 45 nationally when I was mistaken, to thinking through our population and probably harder hit. We have 4 million of like 35 in the state, and this is, so we have more than 10%, but this is less than 10% of the overall grant. Is that, do we have any other monies that are coming in to the city area through other folks, or?
Yeah, we're consistently applying for additional dollars that coming back out. Right now, we're doing a major application for H-1B visa, and we're also looking at, and this is a traditional or non-traditional source of dollars that we've actually applied for in the past. But we're looking where there are resources and to bring them down to the city of Los Angeles.
Was this a formula then?
No.
Based on population?
No, the H-1B is not based on...
No, this one.
Oh, this one, no. It wasn't based on formula. It was a partnership put in. The unfortunate part was when we do things around this statewide, the city always becomes underrepresented.
Yeah, I mean, that's my concern, is that here we are probably, with 12% of the population, maybe 15 or 20% of the unemployed, and we have here maybe, I don't know,
about 8%.
7 or 8%, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Who do we go to change that? What can we do to help you to fight for our fair share?
It's actually at the CalWIB, which is the state board, is always one of the major issues. Even on our formula dollars, we always tend to get the short end of the stick based on that. We are working with our Employment Development Department, EDD, as well. So both on the formula as well as on the grants, we tend, if left on its own devices, to always be on the short end.
Well, let the council members know. We'd be happy to maybe come by, when they're making those decisions, some of their decision-making entities, so that it doesn't go unnoticed. Just, fair is fair. But one last question. So when the folks come through to these or contact with these centers, what sort of, if a teacher comes in, obviously there's not a lot of teaching jobs, quite the contrary right now. What sort of connections are we making with them to find like employment or to retrain them?
So as you know, Councilmember, when an individual walks to our center, they do make an assessment of the skill set. Now, given that these are public sector employees, a good number of who have advanced educational degrees, the assessment is going to be slightly different. What we are doing with this particular grant is we're making available a sizable chunk of money for on-the-job training opportunities. On-the-job training provides a subsidy to the employer of record subsequent to employment. So what we're looking to do is to assess the individual, find suitable employment for them, have an employer employ them, and then after a period of time, reimburse the employer for those for up to 50% of their wages for bringing on the additional person, bringing on the individual and training them in their particular place of business.
Okay.
I think all the questions have been addressed. The one thing I think is on all of these issues that would be helpful in the review process is always give us some idea of the physical location of the selected sites and the area that they're going to be impacting, and that makes it probably eliminates about half the questions of everybody looking at their own district to say, who's serving it, and then what is the region that's being served. And so it would be very helpful. And now by names, you can kind of pick up a general area, but if it's a physical location and then region or area of service, the service area, it would be very helpful.
Sure.
Okay. Great. All right, we'll move the CA report. Without
Thank you.
objection. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next item, please.
Item number 2 is a motion Smith Perry Gruel relative to programs available within the city to assist small businesses with storefront improvements and the steps and resources needed to develop and implement a citywide storefront improvement program.
Okay. We have representatives from CAO, CRA. Come on down. At least we have one.
David Riccatello with the Redevelopment Agency. I'm here to talk about what the Redevelopment Agency does in terms of small business assistance programs that we operate throughout the city. As you know, the Redevelopment Agency is primarily focused on redevelopment project areas. We have 31 of those throughout the city, and we try to tailor our programs specifically to meet the needs of those various communities. Our primary activity, which you're probably most familiar with, are our real estate development projects. They're usually large-scale redevelopment projects. We're currently tracking, even in this down economy, approximately 80 real estate development projects that we consider catalytic and job-generating projects throughout the city. So even though we're in a down economy, the Redevelopment Agency is still actively implementing approximately 80 catalytic developments throughout the city. But in terms of small business assistance, we have a number of those projects, number of those programs that are active throughout various redevelopment project areas. I think you have a handout that we prepared that shows which project areas have an active business assistance program. We have the business assistance program that's being implemented in the Valley that was approved by City Council. We have active facade programs throughout our redevelopment project areas. A number of the project areas they're specifically tailored to the needs of those communities. They're generally consistent in terms of how they're implemented, but the objective of those programs and the amount of funding that's available is specific to the needs of those various communities. For example, Chinatowns is a little bit different than the program that we're implementing in South Los Angeles, for example, because the needs in Chinatown are different than the needs in South Los Angeles. But in general, the programs are designed to provide a low-cost or no-cost financing to do basic building improvements and some interior improvements to the small businesses that we try to assist. We also have some small residential minor rehab programs for residential project areas. We have one of those in South Los Angeles that's active now. And then you're also aware that recently the council this past year approved what we refer to as the IIP program, which is the Industrial Incentive Program. That program is active in downtown and the Valley currently, and that's designed specifically to assist industrial businesses with capital equipment purchases. And we were getting ready, actually had a number of applicants in the pipeline, a couple of which had been approved prior to the state action on the Redevelopment Agency. Hopefully, once we're back in business, we can go full steam ahead with the IIP program and possibly expand it into other project areas that are interested in that program. We also have a pilot program that we're implementing. It's called the Market Conversion Program, and that's designed to help small neighborhood markets to improve the quality of the produce and other groceries that they offer to the neighborhoods. It's specifically designed for smaller groceries, neighborhood-based groceries, to make them, to assist them in providing better quality food to the community. We currently have 4 markets that we're working with in the South Los Angeles area. We're going to assess that program once we finish the 4 that we have in the pipeline and determine whether or not we want to expand that program and continue to provide funding to that. So that's an effort that's underway now. Just as a side note, we also have a number of infrastructure projects that we are implementing, both short-term and long-term projects. Those do provide opportunities for small businesses to participate specifically in the construction aspects of those infrastructure projects. Some of the small-scale projects that you may be familiar with, for example, in Adams Normandy, we're replacing the broken sidewalks in that community. We have some larger-scale, longer-term projects, such as the downtown streetcar. It's a good example of a longer-term project. Also, the reconstruction of Alameda is a project that we're currently pursuing in cooperation with the city. So those provide opportunities for small businesses, but they're not specifically designed as a small business assistance program. And then finally, since I'm here, I want to make a plug for our Locate LA website. We got some good press on it last week.
Yeah.
It's a site that we developed with funding from CRA and DWP.
What's the web address? I know in this overview,
I think
it got taken out. It says Locate LA, but then with a dot before and a dot after, but I wasn't sure. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
Is that?
It's www.locatela.org is the
Okay.
website.
Thanks.
The intent of that website is to address what's been going on for many years in the city, where we have what I call the fire drill. We get businesses calling either the mayor's office or the council office or the CRA saying, well, what do you have available in a 20,000 square foot space? We're looking to expand, or we're looking to locate in your community. What do you have available? And then we do this, what I call a fire drill, call all the people we know and try to contact the brokers to see what's available. The intent of this website is to allow anybody to go to locate what properties are available currently in any area in the city of Los Angeles. It has various pages available to you where you can identify what types of assistance are available. So if you pick a site in downtown Los Angeles and you pick up, it'll show you all the active listings, both properties for lease and properties for sale. If you pick an individual property, it will tell you what types of financial assistance is available to you if you decide to locate in that particular location. So that's very helpful, I think, to small businesses. It's a free service available to anybody in the community, anybody in the country for that matter. And we think that will help a lot in terms of helping small businesses grow and locate throughout the city of Los Angeles.
Okay.
So that's all I had to report on.
Thank you, and that is great. Some of us years ago put together those in like little packets for our neighborhoods, and we'd have to crunch the data every census, and to be able to see that sort of demographic and neighborhood information, I think is going to be very useful. There's a lot of different stuff, obviously, that the CRA is doing, and it's exciting to see. The motion kind of was very narrowly drafted, so I think we're going to want to substitute a kind of a broader intent. So, I mean, I think I will be looking at submitting a substitute motion that lays out kind of a plan either later today or on Friday. But in the meantime, I wanted to instruct the CRA CAO to look at developing a capital improvement program for small businesses, and that would then be available in a wider basis for our small businesses, and to amend this motion to include a complete report back on all economic development programs that are available to small business, including non-CRA ones. So appreciate the CRA stuff, but including but not limited to financing programs related to storefront improvements, tenant improvements on the interiors of stores, and financing programs for equipment purchases related to businesses. That could even be, for instance, on equipment purchases, a gross receipts tax break if you're purchasing equipment. So there's a bunch of things, but I'll make sure that CO has this language and that we can look at that. See if there's anything else that I wanted to... I think it's just really critical. I think part of what's going to get us out of our economic situation right now is getting small businesses back up on their feet. And so CRA has had the deepest work in this area for sure, but we certainly, I think, want to bring together some of the other folks, even connect through CDD some of the job training that can be done for small businesses sometimes when they're looking for the right workforce. So we'll submit that motion, submit a substitute motion. So we're going to be amending and substituting? Okay, we'll amend it and we'll because if we amend it, I think what we'll do is we'll do that in the substitute. Instead of amending this motion, we'll do that in the substitute, because that'll help us bring it all together. Mr. Parks.
I just wanted to, just one thing is that, was it your sense in Mr. Smith's motion that he was looking for a funding source outside of the CRA TI, or is he looking for a general fund allocation, or what source? When they talk, you referred to another city of having $7,500. Do we know what source of funds they used? Was it just a general fund grant, or how they made that program work?
Yeah. I believe that program that's referred to in the motion is similar to the program we operate through our redevelopment agency, but we're specific to it. Our programs are implemented within the project areas using tax increments, so then we are somewhat limited in terms of how that money can be put into a particular project. So
yeah, I was just trying to figure out whether we researched to figure out what was his intent. It appears is to look for a source of funds outside that assist businesses outside of CRA areas. And do we know of any funds that could be used there, or can CRA funds be, what do they call it, if it's connected in some fashion, be used outside the areas it's accumulated in?
The legislation regarding CRAs it allows us to use our housing money outside of project areas, and then we can use redevelopment money for public improvements as long as it's contiguous with a project area. SB 95 further restrict our ability to spend our money outside project areas as a result of what happened in San Diego with their
And we say public improvements, we're not talking about facades, we're talking about what, infrastructure?
just infrastructure, public improvements. But if, for example, we're doing public improvements, Lucky Jeans, which is located just outside of Central Industrial, it borders on Central Industrial, the project area. So we are doing public improvements both within the project area that extend just outside. So there are some opportunities for us to help a business taking on the public improvement needs of that particular business when they're trying to locate.
But there are currently no sources of revenue to assist businesses outside of CRA?
Not with CRA money, but we have on occasion gotten grant money that does allow us to go outside. We've gotten some DWP money, and we've gotten some RF funds that allow us to go outside the project area.
Okay, thank you.
I think what we'll do for action, we do have a public speaker card on this as well, is hold this so we can do the substitute motion on it, and then we're going to share this with HCED as well. But thank you for that overview. Keep up the good work on this. We'll try to bring it together. And I know some of CRA's work by nature is ad hoc from project area to project area, depending on the priorities of that. But as much as we can begin to unify that for the city and for the average business and think from them outwards rather than us inward, we'll see what work we can do to go down that road. But thank you, appreciate it. John Walsh, if you want to come forward on item number 2. Okay, we did at the beginning, but do you want to speak on number 2?
Number 2.
Is on
Small
storefront
business.
improvements.
Well, look, we've killed the CRA. The CRA is dead. It's just a matter of time. Now, if the Supreme Court of this state wants to punch a $1.7 billion hole in the budget and turn this entire state into chaos, they will hold with Mr. Garcetti and with the CRA, and they will rule that the law was unconstitutional, that the Brown was unconstitutional, that the majority of both houses who voted for this was unconstitutional. So you can give money. And Mr. Garcetti, I've been nice to you recently. If you want to see the waste in Hollywood, go onto the corner of Hollywood and Vine, I know you've been there, and look at these gigantic 10-foot stanchions of floodlights that cost $3.5 million and have not worked. They were going to redevelop Hollywood 15 years ago when you were in college, and you were paying no attention. And we said they are white elephants, and they stand there to show. And incidentally, as we know, people are being murdered on Hollywood Boulevard last week. We have the Kush doctor on Hollywood Boulevard, courtesy of the CRA, the Kush doctor who was thrown out of Venice, and he goes up to tourists. You want a medical marijuana prescription? He's wearing a white coat as if he's a doctor. I just want people to know, thanks to Eric Garcetti, 17 and 18-year-olds are getting medical marijuana licenses, and so are tourists. Come to Hollywood, get doped up, kill one another, support the CRA.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. And till the last part, I think we had a little bit of agreement there on those stanchions. For a moment, we had a rare moment of agreement, but we'll try to build on that. After our public comment, we will take action to hold this in committee then, and we'll do the substitute, and then we'll share that over with HCED. Thank you very much, and this meeting is adjourned. Stay tuned for a full council meeting.